Up to about 60 years ago, Japanese people thought that white people are horrible because they
Really?
are almost red hairs and everything is so big and about bodies.
皆さんこんにちは、テスです。今日は討論会を見ます。1956年からです。アメリカで留学生の討論会のトピックは偏見です。1950年ぐらいのアメリカに偏見はたくさんありました。ちょっと悪い時間でした。討論会する国はインドネシア、フィリピン、イギリスと日本。もし動画が面白ければチャンネル登録といいねお願いします。じゃあ行きます。
Welcome to our forum discussion on the roots of prejudice. We'll be talking about what our prejudices are, where they came from, how they're nourished, and perhaps even how to get rid of them. Let me introduce you to the core student participants in today's discussion. Ratnati Iskandardinata, high school student, 17 years old, and also a talented dancer from Indonesia. From Japan, Yoriko Konishi, whose lovely voice you've just heard. From time to time, we like you to get a sense of what we do in all those times when we aren't having serious discussions. We very often get Yoriko to dance or sing for us. She does both. From the United Kingdom, 18-year-old Judith Reeder. Judith's got a bit of a cold today. It did not come from swimming in the Atlantic Ocean, although she assures us that when she's in England, she does swim in the ocean during the winter. From the Philippines, Raul Contreras. Raul will be 16 years old, patriotically enough, on the 4th of July. He may have some prejudices, but one he obviously doesn't have is a prejudice against women, or he wouldn't have been willing to appear tonight with 3 women being the only male on the program. Now, on this question of prejudice, perhaps we ought to start out by trying to define what you think prejudices are. What do you think prejudice is, Ratnati?
I think prejudice is a feeling of hate of people as a group or individual toward other people.
You say a feeling of hate. Do you think prejudice is as strong as hate?
Yes. When there's somebody, if he has a prejudice, then the answer will be, I hate such and such.
Well, I suppose that is true. What do you think prejudice is, Eureka?
Well, I found that if somebody distinguishes between 2 white men, it is not prejudice. But if somebody distinguishes between a white man and a colored man, it is prejudice.
When a person loses track of the dignity of the human soul and begins to judge others not on the basis of their being persons, but on the basis of race, creed, economic status, that is prejudice.
Well, is it fair to ask you whether you have any prejudices?
Well, I guess so, Mrs. Waller. And being brutally frank, I'm prejudiced against Japanese. Well, not to the extent that I hate them. No, not that way. But I got this, well, as a result of World War II. Because, well, I guess I was yet too young to understand what happened during those times. But I think that what my relatives and friends and the people who were witness to that unfaithful occasion, well, they just more than justify the fact. And I think it's justified for me to feel the same way because, well, I know that my people suffered very much under that rule.
You still as prejudiced against the Japanese as you were?
Well, 5 years ago, that prejudice of mine was, well, slightly fading away. But when Japan stubbornly refused to pay reparations to us, well, the prejudice began to brew again. But now I found out from close contact with Yoriko and other Japanese that Japan isn't ready to pay reparations yet. Because as Yoriko said, some of them, and most of them, even have to suffer the cold in the classrooms because they can't afford to heat the schools.
Yoriko, you've got any prejudices?
Well, I don't have any prejudice for Philippines, but many Japanese people hate Korea because the president of Korea made the line, his own line, on the public sea between Korea and Japan. And if the Japanese fishermen go over the line, they are caught by Korean people, and they can't go home for a while. And we are trying to be a friend for Korea.
Now that we've started, we better go on around the circle. Judith, you got any prejudices that you admit?
Yes, I suppose I'd better admit them, although I'm English. I have some very foolish prejudices. You'll probably laugh. For instance, as soon as I meet a person with red hair, I always put myself on my guard because I have a silly prejudice that all red-headed people have terrible tempers, you know, that they're passionate at the color of their hair. Oh, and then I have another silly prejudice that
Japan have had many American or European soldiers after the war, and most of them married with Japanese girls, not only formal wedding, and they made children who called hybrids. And I think the hybrids have nothing to be punished, but some grown-ups didn't used to treat as the Japanese children, and grown-ups also used to treat the mothers of children. Japanese people thought that the mothers of hybrids are not good. They are horrible because they married with foreign people, foreign boys, and many Japanese people don't like to marry with foreign people because they live in different customs, and they consider with different way.
You still have a strong, may I say, prejudice in Japan against marrying people from other countries, don't you?
Well, yes.
Eureka,
Yeah.
Could you tell us something about the status of women in Japan? We hear the strangest things, and you've been telling me the strangest things. Could you tell us more about it?
Before the war?
Yes, and now. Or before.
Well, up to about 60 years ago, Japanese people thought that the white people are horrible because they are almost red hairs, and everything is so big about the bodies. Quite a few people still think so. And in Japan, we think that something to be beautiful must be small and delicate.
You could hardly apply the word delicate to some of the big soldiers we sent to Japan, could you? But I never knew that you looked down on us because we were big. That's very interesting.
We're always proud of if the Western men are tall and handsome. We can yes.
We're proud to be small and delicate.
What you said about skin color, Eureka, I've heard that the Chinese speak about us as pink people instead of white people. It's so much more difficult to be proud of being a pink person.
Yes, you're a pink person.
Might as well face it, Judith. Here we are.
I feel scarlet.
Let's get... Yes?
Judith, since Philippines has so many colonies and, well, let's say, nearly all over the world, how do you feel towards the people in the colonies? Do you have some prejudice?
No, I personally don't have any prejudice. At least I hope I don't. But I know that a lot of Europeans think of the Asians, for example, as rather lazy. I don't mean to be rude, but that used to be the impression we had. You criticize the countries which do. You criticize the Dutch, for example. But I know the British, when they started doing their colonization, they tried to help the countries they were in. But you think that we were butting in and taking away your opportunities?
Well, yes, I think so. I'll give an example about the Dutch that we didn't get a chance to be educated, for example.
That was when the Dutch were there.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to ask them, what do they think are the most common or basic causes of our prejudices? Is it mainly skin color?
Maybe.
Do you mean for example, taking the American trouble in the South?
I guess taking the American side of it, it's just that the white people don't want to mix themselves up with the colored ones.
So what about the colored people? Perhaps they don't want to mix with the white people either.
Well, what about, since you brought up the American race problem, I'd like to ask you, is it as bad as you thought it was going to be before you came, or is it better or worse?
Well, I think it's what I've seen here and what I've heard while I am here, And what I have read in the newspapers, it's just worse than I expected.
Aww.
Don't you agree, Judith?
No, I don't agree. In England, we don't hear too much about the American problem, except, of course, when a certain case came up, and the Supreme Court decision, we heard a lot about it then, but not too much. And when I came here, I had imagined from that Attila case that things would be really terrible in the South. And I found that there's a real feeling of optimism here. I stayed in a Negro family, and I was able to see the position, really a bird's eye view of it, you might say. And the first thing that impressed me was that the Negroes themselves were not happy about the situation, but were pleased. They were grateful for what progress had been made, and they were sure that the situation would continue to improve.
They said the 2 weeks you were in New Jersey that you stayed in a Negro
family? When I was in a Negro family. I know that was in the northern part, and conditions are better there. And I was very impressed with that. They said it would be a slow process, but things were gradually improving. It was a matter of breaking down tradition, and I was very happy to find that.
I'd like to know some of your other experiences with, yes, Eureka.
I've never seen any evidences of racial prejudice in the United States, but I found out that most Negroes are laborers, and they don't have a high position on business. But I was very glad when I saw the Negro girl in South Orange in Columbia High School, who was the vice president of the student council.
I'm glad you did too. Yes, I know.
Here in New York and New Jersey, I don't see any racial segregation or something like that. But when we stopped in Williamsburg and we stopped in Negro school, I saw it's very strictly. I mean, the Negro school go to the special Negro, and I was talking to some of the girls in the school, and I asked them how they feel about being segregated. But they said that they don't mind about that, and what they want is equal rights. And there are some places that they can go, such as restaurant or some clubs. And I think that since all Americans claim and emphasize that America is the most democratic country in the world, and as long as segregation exists, I don't think it's a democratic. I mean, pure democracy.
Well, adding something to that, isn't it that, well, in the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag, you mentioned something about I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation indivisible under God, with liberty and justice for all. Well, the last phrase just doesn't suit everything. I mean, with this segregation problem here and the discrimination against colored people, how in the world could you have liberty and justice for all? And in one of my hospitality tours, I didn't expect that even the kids could carry it that far. I had the, privilege, I should say, of attending one of the dances sponsored by one of the civic groups. And I just noticed that, well, it was a big dance floor, and all the white kids were assembled on the left side, and the most, shall we say, not strategic part of the ballroom, well, all the colored boys and girls were in there. And I never saw a white boy asking a colored girl for a dance, nor did I see a colored boy asking a white girl for a dance.
I had a nasty experience too. When I first arrived here, and I happened to mention to a group of young people that I was going to stay with a Negro family, one of the boys got up and walked out of the room, and I felt awful. I thought, well, we're in the north now, not in the south. And then when we did go into the south, I really came against it pretty hard. We went into this big store, and I was in the ladies' cloakroom, and I was washing my hands, and I was with a group of the eastern delegates, the rather darker-skinned ones like Ratnati. And I was standing a little apart from them, and this lady came up to me, and she pulled me to one side, obviously assuming that I was American, and she said, what are these Negroes doing in here? And I was so cross, and I told her as calmly as I could that I was with them and who we were, and of course her attitude immediately changed. But it gives you such a nasty shock when you come up against it face to face. You read about it in the newspapers, you hear about it, but you don't really realize the significance of it until it hits you in the face yourself.
Are women any freer in Japan now than they were before the war?
Well, before the war, there was no democratic, and women belonged to men, and men controlled women in everything, and
How about
men
now?
had first opportunity to everything. Even getting out of the door, women had to open the door first, and men passed first.
あ
And in the buses or theaters, men take seat first, and if there's no seat, women had to stand up.
Oh, I'd love to live in Japan.
Oh,
But they
Yes,
go
Honto?
back to America and
But
England
that-
now.
Is it changing at all?
yes, quite changed.
あ
And, just now, women can vote, and women have equal opportunity in everything.
イェイフィリピンのラウールの頭がいいね。よりこさんも優しい人。そうでしたね。偏見について話しながら、皆さんがとってもフレンドリーだった。多分現在にはそんなフレンドリーの話時はちょっと珍しいかもしれませんね。よりこさんはアメリカの分離の問題について話しました。あの時にアメリカの分離の問題は本当に悪いでした。1960年代ぐらいに変わりました。今日の討論会は本当に面白かったね。留学生たちは大人になったら本を書いて、よりこさんは政治家になって本当にすごい人になった。もっとリアクション動画を見たいとここから見えます。じゃあ見たことがありがとうございますね。また見てね。バイバイ。